This is my Part 1B of the exercise prescription project for tennis. So, a little recap of my Part 1A needs analysis. As far as the biomechanics of tennis go, pretty much all the major joints in the body are used from the shoulder all the way through the elbow, and all three planes, which are the frontal, sagittal, and transverse plane, are used since tennis revolves around a bunch of dynamic movements. The physiological analysis states that all three energy systems are used at different points of the game, but we'll focus primarily on the ATP PCR system, which will be further explained in the next few slides. Power, strength, speed, and agility are the most important components of tennis. And as far as the injury analysis goes, most of the injuries in tennis are from overhand motions from the serve, and these injuries can include, but are not limited to, shoulder impingement, rotator cuff tears, slap tears, tennis elbow, as well as lower body injuries from shuffling across the court, such as ACL, MCL, and meniscus tears, and ankle rolls from too much inversion. The movement patterns which will be trained in my tennis resistance training program will include the functional movement patterns of squat, lunge, hinge, push, pull, jump, rotate, anti-rotate. But the push and pull will be my primary focus, since tennis requires pushing and pulling of the tennis racket motion in the forehand and backhand. I'll also be focusing on Olympic variations such as power cleans, hang cleans, snatches, so just to create overall power for that serve. I will use squat and hinge variations such as squat jumps and deadlifts to work on the stance, which is used between plays. And I also use lunges, such as walking lunges, to work on change of direction when tennis players have to go from one side of the court to the other to hit a ball. I will use rotate and anti-rotate exercises such as the Pallof press series to work on trunk stability, especially since tennis players rotate through their hit when they're using the ground strokes. And I will use ankle stability as a prehab to prevent, hopefully, inverting that ankle and spraining those ligaments. And I will also use forearm exercises such as forearm rolls on a barbell to better enhance the tennis player's grip on the racket. The muscles and joints to train. The joints, which I'll primarily train, which were listed above, are the shoulder, elbow, wrist, hip, knee, ankle, and trunk. And all the muscles of these joints that will be trained will be flexors, extensors, adductors, dorsiflexors, plantar flexors, inverters, everters, rotators, all the above, just because tennis is a dynamic movement and running back and forth and changing position and hitting the ball uses all these muscles. So I will find a way to implement these in my training program. As far as energy systems go, the ATP PCR system is greatly used between games because the games consist of short, powerful motions of the serve and hitting with the forearm and backhand. And since these are very important, we can train these in the resistance training program. Secondly, glycolysis is also important, which just provides energy throughout a game, which may last for several minutes. And oxidative processes are also used in tennis players to last throughout a whole match, which may be a few hours, but this can be trained through conditioning in tennis practice versus in the weight room. So for my dynamic warm-up, I will go through the basic functions of ramp, which is raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. But more specifically for my needs analysis, I'll focus on activating those upper body and lower body muscles mentioned above, and I'll mobilize specific joints such as the ankle, so I can work on ankle range of motion, which is a form of prehab. And in order to potentiate, I might work on more powerful or speed work such as sprints and shuffles, just to get them ready for their workout and to help them for their sport. The athletic tests which I'm choosing to use are height and weight, the 5-10-5 test, the vertical jump, a hand grip dynamometer test, maximum squat, bench, and deadlift test, and the beep test. For height and weight, this is just anthropometrics, and it's important for tennis because taller people might have an advantage on the serve because they have more angle to use and they might be a little more powerful. And also, smaller, people with less weight can typically move more quickly across the court. So as a resistance professional, you can take the shorter people and make them more powerful, so that way they also have an advantage on the serve. and you can possibly take heavier people and try to focus on more speed and agility work with them. Height and weight will both be measured on a scale which is pictured below. The 5-10-5 test will be done next, and this will assess both speed and agility as far as changing of direction goes. And someone can be fast, but they might not be good in changing direction, which is very important in tennis, from running from one side of the court to the other. And so this will test both. In this, the athlete starts in the middle. They will run to the right or the left, whichever they decide, for 5 yards. And they will turn back around, run through the starting point to 10 yards, and then they will run back to the starting point, which is another 5 yards. This will help us assess change of direction and speed. So if you see that your tennis athletes aren't good at changing direction, then you can focus on more lunging patterns in the resistance training program. Next, I will assess the vertical jump, which assesses explosive power in tennis, which is very important, and also tennis players might have to jump to reach a ball. For this, I will use a Vertec device pictured below where they will jump up and spin the swivel as high as they can, and I will use the best out of 3 trials to record their score. And I will compare this to the normal ranges, and if they don't fall within the normal ranges of vertical jumping, then I can add more jumps or more power-based exercises such as Olympic lifts to my program. Next, I will do a hand grip dynamometer test, which is shown below. The tennis players will just grab the dynamometer and squeeze it as hard as they can on their both hands. The test will be run in 3 trials, and the best results from this test will be used. And this will just be used to assess their ability to grip their racket. And if tennis players are outside the normal ranges, then we can add more forearm work in the weight room. Next, I will assess maximum squat, bench, and deadlift. However, I will not do a 1 rep max because that doesn't translate as well over to the dynamic strength used in tennis. They don't just do one motion and then they're done. They have to hit a ball with their max strength over and over again repetitively. So I will do a 3 rep max for squat, bench, and deadlift to see how much they can push, how much they can squat, how much they can hinge. And then I will use their strength assessment to determine how much strength work I need to do in the program. Finally, I'll do the beep test, which is a popular aerobic endurance test where the speed continuously gets faster and they're running as far as they can until they can't keep up with the beeps anymore. This is a 20-meter test shown below. And if athletes demonstrate lack of coordination, for example, they're not able to change direction as efficiently, or they're not able to just be agile, then I can add more lunges into the resistance program. Finally, the testing order will be done as shown above, with height and weight being first since this is non-fatiguing, and the beep test being last since this is the most fatiguing test out of the tests which I wish to assess. This is done because you don't want the fatiguing test to be at the end and tire out an athlete while they're doing the other test. And these are my references. Thank you.